Tumbleweed's success in the tournament soon went to his head. But Arthur the Lion and Spearhead the Unicorn, with the help of the grey-eyed witch, cooked up a plan to bring him down to earth with a bump. Sir Tumbleweed had woken up feeling very full of himself. As they travelled on, he burst into song. For both the Lion and the Unicorn, this was painful, partly because the knight's voice was loud and rather tuneless, but mostly because he sang the same song of his own invention over and over again. Who is the most courageous knight of all that noble band? Whose is the sword most sharp and bright, grasping whose sturdy hand? Whose intellect, whose wit, whose might, whose skill can none withstand? Who is it no one dares to fight throughout old England's land? And then the chorus, which was, Sir Tumbleweed, I let his banner wave. Sir Tumbleweed, the bravest of the brave. He was just beginning it for the fourth time when they approached a narrow, rocky ravine, and the Unicorn stopped in his tracks, nostrils flaring. Beside him, the Lion lifted his great head, the better to test the wind. Both could plainly recognize the scent that was wafted on it. A very strong scent it was, part beast, part bird, part fish. A kind of mixture of smells you might find in a pigsty, a chicken house, and on a fishmonger's slab on a hot day, topped with a faint tang of smoke. "What's the matter?" asked Sir Tumbleweed. "There's danger ahead, master," growled Arthur softly. "Danger?" said the most courageous knight of all that noble band. "Don't talk such a piffle, Arthur." "What could be a danger to me? Fall forward." Spearhead took no notice. "Oh, all right, if you must have it," said Sir Tumbleweed. "Forward, please." But still the Unicorn didn't move. "Arthur," said the knight sharply, "go and see what it is. Go on, boy, quick." But the Lion only lashed his tail and looked sulky. Sir Tumbleweed dismounted. "What a lily-livered pair you are," he said scornfully. "I can see I'll have to go and deal with this danger by myself. It's probably a great big ferocious rabbit." He strode forward towards the rim of the ravine. Halfway there, he looked back, expecting to see his companions watching him admiringly, but they vanished. Cowards, thought Sir Tumbleweed, and began to sing the chorus of his song. Just then, the smell hit him. It was so strong and somehow so threatening a smell that something told the most courageous knight that discretion might be the better part of valor. He stopped singing and, sheathing his sword, began to crawl forward on hands and knees. Reaching the edge of the ravine, Sir Tumbleweed peered cautiously over. Immediately below him lay a very large dragon. As it happened, Sir Tumbleweed had never before in his life set eyes upon a dragon, though recently he had often dreamed of meeting one, a smallish, cowardly sort of one that would give him no trouble. Never in his wildest nightmares had he imagined such a dragon as this. Everything about it was much too big for comfort. Wings, tail, claws, teeth. Its lizardly skin was red, not the jolly carroty red of the knight's hair and moustache, but a dreadful red, the colour of hot, new-spilled blood. At each breath, 2 puffs of smoke rose from nostrils that looked from above like the craters of twin volcanoes. The only good thing was the volcanoes seemed to be dormant, for the monster's eyes were shut and it was deep in slumber. "Let sleeping dragons lie," thought the knight. "I'll tell the others it was a dead one." It pongs bad enough. But, clumsy as ever, he managed to dislodge a stone which rolled over the rim of the ravine and fell, striking the dragon neatly on top of the head. Like a volcanic eruption, the creature sprang to its feet, spreading its wings, lashing its tail, and opened wide its mouth, from which shot a giant orange jet of flame. To the reek of dragon was added now the smell of singed hair as the flame whooshed above Sir Tumbleweed's head. There was a moment's silence, broken only by the crackling of burning bushes, and then the dragon spoke. "You up there," it said. "Come down by here, quick, or it's Friday you will be." Curiously, the dragon had a lilting sing-song voice, high-pitched and with an unfamiliar accent, but in his state of shock the knight did not notice this. Too many thoughts were rushing through his head, and all of them uncomfortable. "What a fool I am," he thought miserably. "What a boastful, big-headed fool. And now it's out of the frying pan and into the fire, and serve me jolly well right. Now I shall never rescue a damsel and live happily ever after, because I'm going to die. Unhappily, right now." Strangely, the last of these thoughts made Sir Tumbleweed feel suddenly calm. He got to his feet, determined that if he must fry, at least he would fry like a man. He stared down at the great red dragon just below and called out in the boldest voice he could muster, Listen to me, and I'll give you a piece of advice. The dragon stared up at him, fumes curling from its nostrils. There's cheeky. And what advice is that, boyo? Give up smoking, said Sir Tumbleweed. It's bad for your health. Bad for my health, indeed, cried the dragon. I'll tell you something. My smoking is going to be very bad for your health. Next time I'll do more than singe your whiskers. Sir Tumbleweed put a hand up and felt his moustache. It was indeed a good deal shorter, and this made him angry. He forgot all about being burned to death, and he began to climb down the side of the ravine as fast as he could in order to confront the dragon. Hidden among the bushes on the opposite edge, the lion and the unicorn watched and listened. Sir Tumbleweed stumped up to the dragon in a proper tizzy. Look here. What's his name? He said. Jones, said the dragon. Well, look here, Jones. Mr. Jones, said the dragon. Oh, very well, if you must. Look here, Mr. Jones. You burnt the ends of my moustache off. What did you want to do that for? Throwing stones at me, you were, said Mr. Jones. I wasn't. I didn't mean to. I looked over and saw you, and I thought I'd better what? Withdraw. Run away, you mean? Well, crawl away. Oh, it's a coward you are, then? Yes, said Sir Tumbleweed, slowly. I am a coward. Still. Sometimes. Give him credit, said Spearhead softly. He's got the courage to admit it. And stand face to face with one of the biggest dragons that ever came out of Wales. I thought I heard you singing just now, said the dragon. Something about the bravest of the brave. How could you have, said the knight. You were asleep. Pretend then, said Mr. Jones. I was listening, really. Fond of music, I am, see. I like tenor myself. Though I've heard better voices than yours, boyo. Tone deaf you are, see. What do they call you? Tumbleweed, is it? Sir Tumbleweed, said the knight. Oh, sorry, said Mr. Jones. You don't look like a knight. They usually come tinned, see? Easier for cooking, like. Now, you, I'll have to be careful not to frizzle you up. Not much fat on you at all. Tell you the truth, you're not worth lighting the fire for. You mean you're not going to kill me? Said Sir Tumbleweed. No, said Mr. Jones. There's not enough meat in the sausage. I'll spare your life on one condition. Well, what's that? Give up singing. It's bad for my ears. Sir Tumbleweed stopped being angry and started to giggle. He suddenly found this quaintly spoken Welsh dragon extremely comical. What's so funny, boyo? Said Mr. Jones, his scaly brow furrowed in puzzlement. You are, hooted Sir Tumbleweed. You sound so funny. You look funny. And who ever heard of a dragon called Mr. Jones? And he laughed. And he laughed so much that he had to lie down. As Arthur and Spearhead made the descent into the ravine, they met the dragon coming up. Pleased to meet you, said Mr. Jones. She told me you were with him. Having some kind of fit now he is. Below them, Sir Tumbleweed rolled about on the ground, holding his ribs while the tears ran down his face. I didn't overdo it, did I? Asked the dragon anxiously. No, said Spearhead. It's just what we wanted. You forced him to admit he's not as brave as he makes out. And you've stopped him singing? Said Arthur. That's curious, said the dragon in bewilderment. Laughing at my name he is. Soft in the head, is he? Soft in the heart, said the lion. He's looking for a damsel in distress so that he can rescue her and marry her. You don't happen to know of a local one shut up in a castle somewhere, do you? Asked the unicorn. Preferably guarded by a smallish dragon that our man could handle. A non-smoker, if possible, said the lion. Mr. Jones considered. What do you need, I'm thinking, he said, is an aerial survey, see, and for that I'm your dragon. The lion and the unicorn watched as the red dragon took off. Once airborne on his leathery wings, he called down to them, Know what they call me back home? No, they shouted what? Jones the Jet, he cried. And opening his mouth to emit a great gush of flame, he shot off at high speed, backwards. For many days and nights, Mr. Jones jetted about the skies above the English countryside. One good burn was enough to propel him a long way. He knew that a damsel in distress was always shut up in a castle in the highest room of the tallest tower, leaning out of the window waving a handkerchief. Once he did find someone doing this, but when he glided close, he saw that she was a stout old serving wench shaking out a duster. Be off with you, you nasty old crow, she shouted, proving herself not to be distressed and short-sighted and colour-blind to boot. Sir Tumbleweed and his companions continued their search on foot, but though they had no luck, they were quite content, and as time passed, the relationship between the three of them became increasingly close. One carries me and one guards me in my quest, thought Sir Tumbleweed, and neither ever complains. He patted the unicorn. "Not too tired, Spearhead, I hope," he said. "But then you wouldn't be. You've such strength and such stamina." The unicorn turned his head. "I think it's about time," he said, "that you stopped all this business of buttering me up with compliments. We know each other well enough now, don't you think?" "We do," said Sir Tumbleweed. "But I know myself much better, too." And he turned to Arthur and said, "I think it's also about time you packed in calling me master. We're just 3 chums." "What shall I call you, then?" asked Arthur. "What did your friends call you?" asked the unicorn. Friends? Amongst the other knights." "I didn't really have any friends, I'm afraid." "Well, what did your mother call you then when you were small?" Sir Tumbleweed looked a trifle embarrassed. "Mummy called me Tummy," he said. "That's a nice name," they both replied, straight-faced. The very next morning they were woken by the sound of singing, a fine, ringing tenor voice high in the sky above. "Has anyone seen Sir Tumbleweed, a knight that is tall and thin?" Sir Tumbleweed shouted, Spearhead neighed, Arthur roared, and catching sight of them, Mr. Jones banked and made a perfect 5-point, including his tail, landing beside them. "Oh, there's glad I am to see you," he cried. "I've been singing that song over and over again. Lucky I've got a fireproof throat." Sir Tumbleweed felt very pleased to see the Red Dragon again, despite his fearful smell. "What's the news?" he cried. "Have you found me a damsel?" "Absolutely, boyo." "In distress?" "No doubt about it. Leaning from a turret window she was, like a waving her little hanky and calling out, 'Help and save me.' Oh, you can't say much plainer than that, can you now?" Sir Tumbleweed cleared his throat. "What have I got to save her from?" "Oh, that I couldn't tell you," said Mr. Jones. "Moonlight it was, she, big blotches of shadow everywhere." Sir Tumbleweed looked uncertain. "Don't worry, Tummy," said Spearhead. "You'll be a match for it, whatever it is."